G'day mates, welcome back to my YouTube channel. In today's video, I'm of course going to be talking about the FNCS finals this weekend, who made it straight into grand finals, who performed and who didn't. I also want to talk about some of the drop spots that are performing really well right now for any of you guys who are competing or just looking to find better drops, because some of these are to be expected and some of them were quite surprising. There's definitely a few strategies these pros are utilizing that I want to talk about. Also, we had the combat AR added to the game and it's opened up a whole discussion that I've had before that I'm so excited for. I think this AR is one of the best ARs we've ever had in Fortnite, and I want to talk about whether more weapons in Fortnite should function off this idea of more recoil and less bloom, whether this would actually be better for Fortnite, because if you enjoy using the combat AR, it's because you enjoy having good aim that is rewarded rather than just bloom that is luck. So I want to jump straight into it because we have the whole FNCS weekend to talk about and a lot happened. Let's just jump into it. All right, let's jump straight in with FNCS. I'm sorry for not doing a video yesterday talking about who qualified and who didn't. As you probably guessed it, unfortunately, my kidneys causing me problems again, but I'm fine. I'm pushing through and I'm getting it sorted. Don't worry about me, and I appreciate your guys' patience, but it means we get more to talk about today. So before we even talk about round 4 and who came top 5 to make us straight into grand finals, let's talk about the round 3 and round 2. So after an insanely dominant performance in round 2 from Joe, Mongraal, and Vino coming third, and a big redemption story for Tayson, Chapix, and Rezon, who've been a little bit quiet to start off the season in round 2. Unfortunately, Mongraal's team did not make it out of round 3 to then make it into round 4. They had to get in top 33 teams, and honestly, if you're gonna ask my opinion on what happened, I just think there was just a few fights they pushed that were maybe not the best fights, or they just didn't go their way. This team plays very aggressively, honestly a lot smarter than what I've seen Mongraal play recently though. Vino is definitely picking his fights. I just think even the fights they picked maybe weren't so bad, just poor execution in the fights themselves. One of the players usually overextending a little bit early, going down, and that costing them the fight. If they had won 3 or 4 more of those fights they lost, they easily would have made round 3. So I'm not seeing any reason why this team should split up. I really hope they don't. I think they have a great chance to make heats, especially with another good performance next week, and things are looking up for Mongraal. Despite not making round 4, I think things are looking up. The other big name to come out of nowhere, I made a video talking about how he retired because he told his teammates he was potentially not going to play this FNCS. We had Aqua not only show up and play this weekend with CRR and Fast Rocky, he was only 2 places away from making top 5 in round 4. So Aqua is very much still here, very much to stay, and I have a feeling he is gonna make grands and do really well. Like, there is just something about Aqua, I don't know what it is. He definitely has to go down as one of the best IGLs in history, if not the best for team game modes. He can just show up with minimal preparation and still dominate. So wanted to make sure you guys knew Aqua very much still around. The other big name making it into round 4 that, you know, has been a little bit quiet for a little while, I think a lot of people are focusing on Mongraal, is actually Mitro. Mitro showed up and again in round 4 performed really well, but I want to talk about that in a little bit. But EU across the board had a few upsets making it to finals, a few of the really good teams we expected, but NA East pretty much across the board, other than Clix's team, I would say was all the big names. All of the new teams that formed, and wait till I show you the top 5 from round 4, they're all the new teams. They are performing so insanely well. If you like any of these players, you are happy that the snake eating happened on NA East, because every single player ended up with a better team, except for maybe a few of the players like Illust who've been bouncing around, but all the teams we've talked about that newly formed are doing so well. I already made a whole video on the FNCS format. I don't want to kind of go into too much detail again, but all you need to know for the sake of this video and right now is the top 5 teams in round 4 go straight through into the grand finals. They skip the semifinals, which is the heats, and they skip reboot rounds. The rest are trying to get top 66 most consistent teams across the 2 weeks. So all they go do is be in the best 66 teams across the 2 weeks of qualifiers that don't get top 5, and they'll go through into heats and semifinals. So top 5 is what we're focusing on now, and the brand new team in their first tournament together, Centered, Commandment, and Stretch, they did not disappoint. Everyone had high expectations. We had players like Zate saying this is the best team to have ever formed, and they're backing it up. They got first on 198 points, 6 matches, 1 victory hour with an average elims of 5.5, but an average placement of 5.17. they had an average placement of top 5 almost in a 6-round set lobby final, their first time playing set lobbies together. So Centered's team kicking it off with a bang, looking insane. We had Jamper, Day, and Tragics coming second on 186. No surprise there, they've been the Cash Cup monsters, winning the first NA East Trio Cash Cup and Cash Cup Extra back-to-back, and apparently they can do it in set lobbies as well. We had Man City Threats, NRG Edgy, and DT Rise in third on 168. Again, obviously Edgy when he left Centered and Stretch, a lot of people questioning, Centered and Commandment, a lot of people questioning why he did that. Look, I know you guys aren't getting along, but you know, that was probably the best team you're ever going to play for. Well, Threats and Rise said that Edgy was the best player in NA East to fit into their playstyle, and they're proving it. Both teams looking so good. We have Qua, Iomzo, and Paper, another brand new team that I genuinely think right now in NA East might have to be the most underrated team. They have been placing so well this season, and I feel like a few people are talking about it, but not enough for just how good they're looking. And in the 5th and final place, Muzz, Miro, and Sen Bugadorf, they managed to make it through. Muzz on his brand new team has gotten straight into grand finals, something he was not able to do last season. But again, I'm excited to talk about Looter and Speedy, who also made finals. A lot of people giving Looter and Speedy a lot of crap, saying that they were holding Muzz back, but with their brand new teams in their first time playing together, Speedy picking up 2 Middle East pros now on NA East, managed to make finals, and we had Looter now playing with Calc and Bank Teller also making finals, but they almost lost it. They were very much in the clear. They were second place going into their last game. They got a 2 Elim 22nd. A lot of people not sure what happened there in the last game. Was it nerves? No, it was as simple as they were trying to hit a Shadow Cube into bounce pad play. Booga and Muzz, I believe, pulled it off perfectly. Miro unfortunately got stuck. I think he hit the slipstream. He fell short, and because of that, Miro went down early. Then Booga and Muzz came back to try and get his card and save him, and they got held on the edge of zone. Outside of that game, they really only had one other poor performance with an 18th place, but they played really, really well. It's very exciting to see. C's Cold and Elite, a team that I really did not think was going to do this well in the finals. Huge hats off to them. Very underrated team at NA East. Just 2 Elims, 4 points off the mark. Starting off terribly, getting a 3 Elim 25th and a 3 Elim 19th, but then bringing it back, 12 Elim 5th, 3 Elim 5th, 3 Elim 7th, and a 7 Elim 4th. So Cease's team looking very hot. Niddle, Casca, and Smacked, I just want to see what these guys can do with an uncontested drop. Contested at Retail Row, these guys are absolute monsters. They were top 5 for a lot of the tournament, right outside it, and they just fell short in the very last game, only getting a 2 Elim 16th. But again, out of a contested Retail, which they're always contested at, by the way, I don't know why everyone keeps going Retail. They just fell short. DGen Ages Kanata out of Caddy Corners, their new drop spot on 145, just missing out. Huge performance from them. Slacks, Acorn, and Jack in 9th on 138. They were contested at Slurpee by Narwhal's team, and I think they're going to continue to be contested, which is very unfortunate for them. And a brand new team of Mikey 6, Summer, and Fire. So huge tournament across the board, really big performances. And like I said, I want to talk about some of these drop spots as well. So we have Commandment, Centered, and Stretch coming out of Lazy Lakes. Nothing crazy there. Great drop spot, middle of the map. They play it very, very well. They rotate early. They get their surge tags, and they play fantastic. Jamper Day and Tragics out of Uncontested Dirty. Dirty recently has had a huge buff because of the alien base next to it. Not only is it more loot, depending on the zone, it also gives them better rotations, which has really, really helped out their surge strats. If you guys remember, Dirty Doc's biggest issue, especially for Day, when he was playing a reverse and mirror, was having to key a team very early on to get that early surge. They couldn't really set up in a lot of spots for tags because they were down behind the mounds and they had to rotate late because Dirty takes a long time to loot. Well, today, I didn't think I saw them have a single issue with surge, so that is definitely going in their favor. We have Threats, Edgy, and Rise dropping uncontested Holy Hedges. Really, really good for them. Rise and Threats are the kings of Holy, been going there for seasons now. Edgy slotting right in there, obviously picking up the drop spot very, very quickly. They also have really good llama control, rotating out of Holy. There's a lot of open space. With the new alien station next to it though, unfortunately that has cut down a lot of their open space. They are getting quite a few llamas, but nowhere near as much as what they used to. We have Qua, Yomzo, and Paper out of Stealthy, which is a drop spot that not a lot of teams in other regions are seeing huge success out of, but Qua, Yomzo, and Paper have been so consistent, and it's a great drop because it's very unlikely to be contested by another team. Their biggest issue, which doesn't happen too much on NA East, mostly happens on EU, is getting keyed by the Craggy Cliffs team, but that is looking fantastic for them. And then Muzz, Miro, and Booga out of Misty Misty. Now, not only do they get Misty, they're also getting the alien base to the north of Misty. So they have so much loot. This team has more loot than they can deal with. Quite often their issue being early surge tags because they're so far south in Misty when they get far north zones. But like I said, with Day's team, with having the alien base next to Dirty, they can quite often hit those shadow flopper pad plays or just use the slipstream and cover a lot of distance very quickly. But the main story here, top 5 teams all uncontested. So even though the map right now is a lot better, it's given more loot on the map. A lot of teams are more spread out. There was way less teams contested today, making it feel like a way better finals than last season when I talked about it, just feeling like it was either you were contested and you didn't do well, or you were unconned out of luck and then you did well. Like, I know we've had this discussion a lot about, you know, putting in work into getting an uncontested drop, and it, you know, people don't own the drop spots, and a lot of you guys didn't like that storyline, and I agree, it's a boring one to talk about. This season's way better. There is way more loot on the map. So even though they are the top 5 uncontested, I believe pretty much almost every other team in top 10 though, except for Acorn's team and then Niddlecasca Smacked, was also uncontested. So most teams across the board are getting their own drop spot, which means that a lot more people have a chance, and then it comes down to who's better on the day, and that's what I love to talk about. I also wanted to talk about how this was a story of low and mid ground dominance. All the top, I would say 5 teams actually, except for Kwa, Yomzo, and Paper, the other 4 teams in the top 5, I don't think I saw them on high ground really one time, or maybe for a little bit, but no one was heavily going for high ground. NA East right now is being ran by teams who know how to play the low and mid because it's just so much less chaotic. High ground right now just really isn't worth it with people just psycho launch padding it, which you see a lot on EU. Despite the EU guys pulling it off well and usually getting high elim games to kind of negate the games where they go down early, it just doesn't seem to be worth it in my opinion. Really, in this current meta, low and mid ground teams are the ones you're looking out for. It's why Sentence team is dominating so hard, because they are the kings of low ground. But Jamper Day and Tragic's doing such a good job to run up the mid ground. Same with Threats' team and Muzz, Mira, Booga. It's the teams that are very diverse in how they play the game. Even Kwa, Yomzo, Paper, I think they only got 1 victory out from high ground. So other than that, a lot of their points came from the mid and low. So if you're a comp player right now, I really wouldn't be focusing on these huge, insane high ground takes and how to get high ground and hold it. I saw one game, Commandment Centered and Stretch was set up on a mountain. They got half, no other teams around them, and they didn't even build up. They literally didn't even spend 100 mats each just getting high ground and holding it till someone else would take it from them. They just gave it up. They did not want it at all. They just wanted to focus on getting front side, holding mid ground, dropping a low when they could. They don't even take free high grounds. They are that against playing for it. So a lot of you guys out there, I think, should start paying attention to that. High ground is not the way to win tournaments anymore at all. Yes, there'll be some teams like Aquas, like Queasy, which I'll talk about in a little bit, who are just extra insane at getting it and they're freaks at it. For most teams, it is far more consistent and far better to learn how to play mid and low. Moving over to EU, and absolutely no surprise here, we have Queasy and Nas and Thomas HD in first. They are winning absolutely everything right now. This is the most dominant team this season. I will not take any argument against it. They've won EU Cash Cup, EU Cash Cup Extra. They're placing in NA Cash Cups. They're placing in everything, and then they win the first week, their first time playing set lobbies together other than smaller tournaments to kick off the season. Again, 175 points, 6 matches, 1 win, an average elims of 4.83. An average placement of 7.33. They are looking really good. Like I just said when talking about NA East, they did go high ground occasionally, but they played it smart. If other teams challenged it heavily, they gave it up. This was a lobby that had teams like Aqua and Tayson's team who are both very aggressively going for high ground, so they knew when to give it up. They didn't just hold it at all costs like I see a lot of teams just, you know, either win the high ground and try to win the game or die on it. They gave it up when they needed to. They played so incredibly smart. We had Andalix, Forziar, and Xweez. Again, another team that off to a fantastic start to this season and last season, a team that now has crazy chemistry. I've been talking a lot about these new teams forming and doing well, and honestly, they're pretty much on EU as well as NA. It's like all new teams. We do have one of our old vanguards in the French team, and they were first for the entire tournament basically until their last game. They got a 1 elim 27th, but at that point, it didn't matter. They were already through into the finals, and of course, we have Endretta, Benji Fishy, and Savage getting third on 150. It's It's Benji season. Everyone's getting behind it. Benji was streaming the tournament to like 30, 40,000 viewers. Numbers we haven't seen in a while in Comp Fortnite. Everyone was loving it. They were having a great time. Vibes were high. I know some people are going to say Benji RNG. They did get, I think, 6 or 7 llamas in their 6 games, but that is one of the main benefits of Steamy. A lot of open area around it. You get to see on your way in. There's no one dropping in those areas, so you get to claim the llamas and you don't have to drop on them. You get to do your normal loot route and then get them on the way out. It is very, very efficient. Then we had Rifler, Kinzel, and Jerky, which surely has to start telling the story of Jerky not getting carried to his FNCS win. This is a phenomenal player who deserves the community's respect, getting 4th place, 148 points, doing really, really well. Then we had Zeku, Esti, and Slove. Again, Esti especially a player I've had my eyes on for a while now. Now, their match history doesn't look too hot for what you'd think to get a top 5. They got an 11 elim 4th, a 3 elim 18th, a 5 elim 19th, a 7 elim 17th, a 1 elim 21st, and then a 7 elim win. And not insanely impressive match history, but they got top 5, and that is all that matters off the back of 2 really huge games, and they just edged out Tayson, Chapix, and Rezon. Now, this one's crazy because it went down to the difference of 0.5 average elims on the tiebreak. So they both got 143 points. The next tiebreak is Victorials. They both got 1. The next tiebreak is average elims, and that's where SD had them beat. Despite Tayson's team having a higher average placement, they don't get to go through. And this is unfortunate because Tayson, Chapix, and Rezon start off the tournament really rough. 1 elim 20th and a 0 elim 26th. Then they brought it back massive with a 6 elim 5th, 12 elim win, and 8 elim 6th. You can never count Tayson out, but their last game getting a 4 elim 18th, which Rezon was not happy about at all. I have to translate these tweets, so I hope I'm not getting them wrong, but basically the gist of it is Rezon was calling out Mitro, was not happy. Mitro's team aggressively pushed them. Mitro just laughing in the replies, didn't really care that much, and honestly, Mitro was playing like an absolute psychopath today. He really was, but they had a few really, really good games. They came in 8th, so I mean, like, they're only 2 points behind Rezon there, so you know what I mean? I don't really get too much into the beef, but Mitro's playstyle, as unorthodox as it was working. They got a 17 elim 2nd in one of their games, getting half their points in a single game. So if they could have had another big game like that, they could have got top 5. So as much as people like to, you know, down talk Mitro these days, yes, his playstyle is unconventional, but he's keying fights that maybe would be considered stupid fights, but you know, he was 20 points off qualifying. He almost had it in the bag. That's 10 more elims across the day. That's a few more placements, 1 more decent game, and they could have potentially done it. I love Rezon. I know why he's frustrated. I just want to make sure that I'm also giving Mitro the respect he deserves today. And we managed to have, we had Shiny's team in 7th. I've just talked about Mitro. We had Hen, Refscard, and Trulex in 9th. And then we had Blackie's team in 10th. The big upset of the day for me was actually Seti Kami Teak. I'm not quite sure what happened here. They had uncontested North Kami split. They had 2 teams battling it out at Dirty for easy surge and easy elims. I did expect more from them. I'm sure they'll bring it back week 2. It wasn't a bad performance, just when I saw that Seti Kami Teak had unconned Kami split, I pretty much called them as a top 5 out of the gate, so I'm not sure what happened there exactly. Now, let's talk about drop spots, and some of these are to be expected. Some of them are quite surprising on EU. We had Queasy and Nas and Thomas HD going Caddy Corners and Weather Station. Because of there being more loot on the map right now, more viable drop spots, it's very normal to get Caddy Corners and Weather Station. That's what we also saw from DGen's team on NA East. A lot of teams not trying to drop that mountain area and have like terrible loot, but just grab any loot they can on the map. So that's a big buff to Caddy, and of course, it has good mats, good loot. It has peppers, which this team utilized very well, especially when they were going for high ground. So no surprises there. We have Andelix, 4ZR, and Xweez. If you watch EU at all, you already know it's Misty. Misty has been owned by the French since Misty was added. They are still going there, still seeing very, very big success. Andretta, Benji Fishy, and Savage out of Steamy. I talked about them getting a bit of luck when it came to the llamas, but that is the one benefit of Steamy, and that usually negates the negative of having really, really hard Storm Surge routes. They set up fantastically, didn't struggle with that at all, so I'm very confident with them going into grand finals where the games will be even more stacked. Now we get to the odd ones though. We have Rifler, Kinzel, and Jerky going the alien station next to Weeping. It has good mobility, it has good mats, it has a good loot, but nothing insane. It's not like a tier 1 drop by any means, and I think that's even more testament to how well this team is doing with nowhere near the best loot on the map. Like, it's not bad, but they quite often had teams dropping Weeping, rotating through. They have to avoid those fights, get their surge. Like, it's not an easy drop by any means. Then we had Zeku, Esty, and Slove having arguably an even worse drop, going the IO house to the north of Orchard, just next to Craggy, and the triple houses next to Steamy. It's a decent amount of loot, but it's very much on the edge of the map. It only has cars for rotates, which, you know, these days is pretty solid, but it's a decent drop, but by no means is it like your Believers Beach, Misty, Lazy, like major POIs. So I'm loving that storyline. And you'll also notice the only drop I mentioned there for NA East and EU was Misty. There's no just like 4 or 5 drops that are dominating, and if you don't get them, you're going to do terrible. And it's not all this story about everyone being contested, which leads to beef and drama. And some of you guys might like the beef and drama with drop fights. I don't particularly like it that much. I'm a little bit bored of it. I love the storyline now being that so many more teams have a chance. Like, some teams are still contested, don't get me wrong. Aqua's team was getting dropped on a few times at Boney. We had Metro's team going up against Noah Riley's team at Believers Beach, which makes Metro's 8th place even more impressive with those spawn fights under their belt. But for the most part, a lot of teams had a really good chance uncontested to have a good tournament, and I love that storyline so much more for competitive. This map is so much better than the last one. Moving away from FNCS, we got to talk about the changes to the loot pool. We have the combat assault rifle added to the game, and what are my thoughts? I absolutely love this gun. When it first got talked about, I told you guys, can we please vote for the AR, not the SMG? High recoil, low bloom with high damage means that it's going to reward aim, and that's going to be so much more satisfying on an AR than just jumping in a box with an SMG and just spraying like crazy. Didn't think the AR would win because most casuals do a lot of the voting, usually prefer spray and pray weapons, but hey, Fortnite community showed up, surprised me, and I'm so excited because, man, this AR is so much fun. It is just that. It is the aim machine. The recoil is crazy. Obviously, when it kicks, you got to pull it down. I've heard on controller that can be a little bit more difficult to do if your sensitivity is quite high. On mouse and keyboard, though, I love it. As someone who's come from a big gaming background, I first started playing Counter-Strike when I was like 10 years old. Recoil is my much preferred method of damage than bloom. If you guys don't know what I'm talking about, Fortnite, very simply, when you shoot, you'll notice your bullets pick random spots to go around your cursor. The more you spray, the bigger the crosshair gets, the less likely you are to hit shots, and bloom just goes anywhere. Yes, there's some skill to reducing bloom. You can have first shot accuracy, you can crouch spam, there's things you can do, but for a lot of the parts, there's a lot of luck in aim in Fortnite. There's those times where you've locked onto someone's head, you've shot, and just the bullets just don't hit. That's bloom. Recoil isn't like that. Recoil is predictable. The gun kicks up like a real gun would in real life. You control it down with that really tight bloom this gun has. You hit more shots if you have skill, and I love that. It is so much fun to use. You'll probably notice, again, a lot of people who like this weapon also like the burst rifle. Burst rifle being a bit different, but I love the fact that if my cursor is on them and I shoot, I'm gonna hit my shots, and that is always so satisfying. But in the box, the burst doesn't really deliver. If I jump in, I hit my pump shot, I need to follow up with a burst. Maybe it's just my aim. A lot of you guys, especially on controller, find the burst in the box really strong. I'm just not a huge fan, but this I'm a big fan of. It's currently not in competitive. I wish it was. It would be pretty terrible for first shot accuracy at Surge. It doesn't do a lot of damage at range, and it does have a big clip size though, so endgame it is so good for pressuring, but it eats through ammo like nothing else. It'd be interesting to see how the pros use it, whether they would like it over regular ARs, how it would fit into the loophole. But as far as pubs go, it is really fun, and I'm not the only one saying this. A lot of pros and a lot of players out there really enjoying it, and it opens up this discussion that I've had before. Should Fortnite be more recoil based than bloom based? Like, how would it feel if all guns were recoil based, not bloom? And obviously you'd have to reduce the values of damage and adjust them, but you guys might not like this. It's not something that I'm saying we need in Fortnite. I'm not going to pretend like it's the best thing ever. Maybe I would hate it. I know we had an LTM at one point where the game did have recoil, not bloom. I guess Fortnite was considering it and chose not to, but it rewards aim. And for me, someone who always wants to increase the skill gap as much as possible, where if I work on my aim and I practice it, I want to know that I'm going to hit my shots. Fortnite is an incredibly skillful game. In my opinion, the most skillful. I know people are going to complain and say, oh, you know, Rocket League, League of Legends, like whatever other esport. But in my mind, Fortnite, when it has building, editing, game sense, everything else attached, being a battle royale, I think it is the most skillful esport. And you add recoil on top of that to make the aim even more skillful and less luck based. It would just be insane to me. I know it would change the game completely, and that's why I don't think Epic will do it, because it does risk destroying the game as much as it could make it better. I'm not going to pretend that straight out of the gate I'm 100% sure it would make the game better. Maybe I would hate it, but I think it's a cool concept to talk about, and if you enjoy playing with this new combat AR, you probably agree with my sentiments. You'll notice that as you use it more and as you practice, and when you really just get used to it, you will hit more shots. Less of it is luck based, more of it is skill. And as you get more experience with the gun, you learn how to pull down and control the recoil. You learn how the actual recoil pattern specifically works. It's really fun. If you ever played a game like Apex, each gun has a specific recoil pattern. And once you learn how that pattern works, it is more skillful and it rewards experience. Some people in Fortnite don't like that. They're just going to complain it's going to make the game more sweaty. And I get that. I do understand that. But hey, it's the competitor in me. I like to make everything as skillful as possible. Even if I get absolutely dumpstered by ridiculously good pros out there and kids that are just sweating their ass off, I still sit back most of the times and think, hey, that guy deserved to kill me. That was skillful. But I hate when I have my cursor on someone's head, I feel like my shots should have hit, and Bloom just says no, and the shots just miss. But very cool item. Unfortunately, not in competitive though. But hey, I've been playing some pubs at the moment. It makes them a lot more fun. Alright guys, that does it for another video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please chuck a like on it. Let me know in the comments section down below your thoughts on anything I talked about today. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. It would mean the world to me. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one.